Alright. Um, all right. So I guess this is live. I've never done YouTube live by myself before, so I have no idea really what I'm doing here. But all right, cool. I imagine this isn't going to be a lot of people in this room, which is completely fine. That's not the point. I just wanted to address a couple things that happened over the course of a couple days, which is something that I didn't really expect to happen for for my social media account. But it's fine because I'm glad it did happen. And but I did want to address a couple things because it did kind of blow up in the sense. So we have. I think I can share my screen, right? Yeah, I can do. There we go. I can do this. So we had this tweet that came out from this person. I have nothing against this person whatsoever. I don't care in that sense, but I do search for comments in the sense of like what people are saying about TerraVision, always, thanking them for what they do, purchasing from us, whatever it may be, answering any questions that I may see that I can answer. But it was just this message here that says, "Can't you care for a bit of restoration or a bit of cleaning up? The worst Blu-ray in terms of picture quality so far." And tagging, it's funny because they tagged the band TerraVision and not us. But I searched TerraVision, so that's how I found it. And I just responded with, "We did a massive amount of work on this. The condition of the print." Um, and doing that. So it's oh, same black screen. Oh, okay. Hopefully it worked. But anyways, you can go to my Twitter account and you can see the interaction. I wasn't trying to be negative towards the person. I wasn't trying to roast them or be angry or mean because I wasn't. I almost ignored it because I just didn't really care. But I felt like we did put a lot of work into Old Kung Fu Master, and we put a lot of work into Game of Killers. But the cool thing, I guess, about this is that it blew up in the sense where there was a lot of people that didn't know who TerraVision was that commented on this post, which is really it's nice because it was a lot of I mean it was like 99% of the people were um, happy that we do the work that we do, that we were rescuing these old kung fu films, or whatever it may be. Just a very positive response, which was felt good. Got a lot of eyes on TerraVision. Sales even popped up with those kung fu films and other stuff, which was great. But the more I sat back and I watched how people thought this was great, for me, it was perfect in the sense of like getting more eyes on television. But the negative side was that I didn't want people to think this was the standard of restoration for Old Master or Game of Killers. And I mean that like I'm not going back on what we did by any means, but I kind of wanted to explain myself on what we did and why we did it. And if for those reasons, for people that one didn't know or missed the live streams or new customers or anything like that, since uh, that people don't know who we are, which is completely fine. So when we acquired legally Game of Killers and Old Master through L&T Films, those were two films that I really enjoyed when I was younger. I love kind of the chopsocky, weird, goofy type of kung fu films. I love the high end stuff too, but some of this kind of like you had Row westerns that came out, and well, with the success of Bruce Lee in Hong Kong, you had this like really, really big wave of low budget kung fu films, just like how John Wayne was popular and all these westerns came out after him or during even his career. So, Old Master and Game of Killers were fun to do, but on the side is that the material for those films, the negatives are long gone, mainly because Hong Kong didn't have any film preservation around, around sometimes back then, especially in the 70s and 80s. And some of these movies were made in Taiwan. There were knockoffs. There was copyright issues, especially Game of Killers. You watch Game of Killers. There's so much different types of music, Pink Panther, Morcone, and all this other stuff. But when we acquired those films and we found film prints, they were in very, very poor condition. They were pink, magenta. They were filthy, and we acquired them legally. And then to put out a Blu-ray is expensive itself. It roughly between putting out a Blu-ray can cost you, depending on what you do, 12 to like $15,000. That's just right out of the gate. That's just putting a movie out, pressing a disc, authoring the disc, putting it out. That doesn't count for the cost of QC, the cost of scanning the film, or the cost of finding the film, transporting the film, shipping it, because I mean it's going to be heavy because it's going to be 4 or 5 reels, which are it's going to be like a pallet of film. And you have not pallet, but a few heavy boxes, and shipping across that from overseas, which is where these came from. A couple $1,000. Cleaning the film is a couple $1,000. And then we have to. After we cleaned the film, we did color because the films were, like I said, when I tweeted, I put little pictures. You can see that there were pink, magenta, and we did color passes on that along with some light restoration. And then came to a point where we were kind of going into the film restoration side of these films, and we had kind of an internal debate on how much work should we put into this. And I'm not saying that we are doing the correct thing. It's just something that we decided to do, especially myself, decided to do. Even though I believe in full restoration and cleaning up a film, taking everything out. However, these films no one is asking for, and frankly, no one really knew about. I think Game of Killers had like one review on Letterboxd, and I think 10 reviews on IMDb. Old Kung Fu Master was a little more popular because it had kind of the Wu Tang background. Wu Tang had their own VHS label, and they put a lot of these like really, really rare films through. Through their label and got eyes on them in the 90s, which is really cool. Even I'm drawing a blank on the lead character, the drunken master in Old Master. That's a movie that he did, is actually how Old Dirty Bastard got his name, because he does a movie called Old Dirty and the Bastard. It was actually is funny because Old Master is incorrectly known as Old Dirty and the Bastard, but that's another movie because he plays the same character. But anyways, that film had a little bit more, audience, or it was a little bit more well known. However, no one was banging down the door asking for these films. And as a restoration company and things that we do, we release a lot of films that no one's asking for or no one knows, because that's kind of what our background and what we love, those types of films, because all these budget or big budget films, studio films, don't get released by somebody, but there's a lot of these like really low brow things that just kind of go unnoticed. So you come to a point in this restoration side of how much more money do you want to spend on these films when you already have a pretty cool HD picture on a film that has been stuck on VHS in the wrong aspect ratio for decades. And who else is going to do this? Who else is going to take the time and already put forth, I would say, at least $30,000 already on each of these films. Now, could the restorations look better? Absolutely. That is very, very possible, which, a few people asked me. Yes, absolutely. We could have done, 3, 4, 5 more passes on a restoration, really, really taking out that, scratches, and there's certain things that can be fixed, like the guy that posted the picture, which is not wrong. It flutters, which is warping. If we would de-warp a film, it costs like, I mean, it could cost anywhere between $10,000, $20,000, and it's not always guaranteed to work. Now, if we're dealing with like a Bruce Lee film, sure, we would have done that. But we're not. We're dealing with some really lowbrow stuff that no one has ever seen before, let alone HD. If you were lucky, you maybe saw it in theater if you're old enough. And these films where they were passed around quite frequently for drive-ins and all over the country, really, in these like really cheap theaters. So these prints have played probably 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 times through their history. So they're really in bad shape to begin with. We're not dealing with a negative, which a negative is rarely untouched. So when you scan it, you do a raw scan, you clean the film so that way you don't dirty up your scanner, but you don't like go through and in the sense of taking it frame by frame and I mean that's a different story. I mainly want to talk about Old Master and Game of Killers. So when we did that, we didn't want to put forth another maybe 20, 40,000 dollars, and that's per not that's all together maybe about a 10, 15, 20 on each film. um Putting forth that and making it clean up and de-warping it and all that stuff is how much better could we actually make it look. And honestly, I was sitting there watching this, after we had the colorist do all the fabulous work, by the way. um I was sitting there, I was like, I kind of like this, like how beat up it looks, because that's how people have always viewed this movie, other than a shitty VHS in the wrong aspect ratio. But if you're in the theater and you're enjoying these things, this is kind of how it's supposed to look in a way. Not really, because obviously they wanted to look crisp and clean when it first came out, but it added so much charm and kind of flavor to viewing the film. And I was just like, man, I feel like if we really put forth the extra money, let's just say 20 grand per film, these movies aren't going to make, I mean, we're going to be in the negative on Game of Killers and Old Master probably for quite some time, especially because we're paying, the rights owners too. We're going to be in the negative for these a long time because they're not huge sellers. They're not going to move like a Bruce Lee film or something that's really really well known. Or if it's even a cult underground film, we would have put more work and effort into the films. But I just didn't want people to think like, oh, that's what they do. They just scan a print and then put it on Blu-ray, because that's not what we do. We haven't done that all the time. We've done some with the jar, we did a big cleanup, but that was partially from a camera negative and mainly from a print that was never screened. Nail Gun Massacre, that's a mixture of elements that have pretty much never been viewed. I think the print, that partially print that we used, was maybe screened like 3 or 4 times. So, and plus that was in today's, like, the past few years. These movies are going to be in really good shape, so they don't take a lot of work in the sense of a restoration. It's mainly color, and just prepping it for a Blu-ray or UHD. So what we see in Game of Killers and Old Master isn't the Terrorvision standard, and I don't think that should be the standard, to be honest with you. And I don't think companies really should use that, or not companies, but people should use that as a base. We did it because of the style of the film and the popularity of the film. And also it's just become a financial thing. I'm not going to put, another 20 grand into each film, because it's going to sell the same amount, I feel. And that's just honest. That's just being honest about it. And part of this is the love of cinema and putting these movies out and giving them HD masters and getting them out in HD for the first time. That's the real goal here. Not so much the money, but we can't do it unless we make money, because then we go out of business. Because this stuff is very, very expensive. We're talking, tens of thousands of dollars for every film that you put out. You're going to be spending a minimum of 20, $30,000 just to put the movie out. That doesn't count, like I said, authoring, QC, the rights, packaging, special features, all that other stuff comes later. So that's mainly what I just wanted to say, because I didn't want people to think, especially new people getting into the label, or like, oh, this is what their films look like. That's not the case. But when we do these types of kung fu films that are not well known, no one's asking for, very low reviews. We're gonna kind of give it this grindhouse look, as if you would see it in the film theater in the 70s or 80s. And I think that's fun, man. I think that's great. I have a scan of a T2 print that I view frequent enough. I'll never watch the fucking Blu-ray or 4K because I think it looks like garbage. One, because they did a bad job. But this the print on T2 is just torn to shit. But that's what it would probably look like in the summer of, when that movie come out. 92? I don't remember. But that's what probably will look like for a lot of people because it was, beat up and, screened thousands of times because that's what movies did. But anyways, I think that's kind of what I just wanted to get out. Because like I said, I was very thankful for the response and a lot of new people saying, wow, this is really great. But I also didn't want people to think that was a standard. So it was kind of like a, not a double-edged sword type thing, but I just didn't want people to think, oh, that's what all their movies look like. Because that's not what our intent is. It's just we have to view the film as it's how is this going to film going to do? How much work do we want to put into it? And that's pretty much it. So I appreciate everybody kind of jumping in and this impromptu live thing. If anybody is in here, thank you. If you have any questions, I'll answer them since you joined here. And it looks like we have 22 people. Um, just to kind of make maybe another 5 minutes, 10 minutes of just asking questions. Let's go through the thing. You're doing great work saving lost prints, master tapes, and look forward to more city lights. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the same thing with like some of the city lights and VHS scans that we do. That's the best it's going to look, and we try to make it look as good as it can. It should never be the standard of just putting a tape. If there's more elements out there, just don't do a tape. Do the print, at least scan it for Christ's sakes. Had to refresh. Okay. I think the fact that you have to come on here and explain this stuff after yesterday's Twitter tip is quite funny. I mean, I find it funny too, but again, it's like the integrity part of the company is like we really don't want that to look like, oh shit, that's what they do. And a lot of people, I agree, is that you look at these companies, these other companies of what they're doing, and everybody has their own kind of outlook, their own mission of what they want to do. Have this window open, it's a glare, but it's fine. Their own mission of what they want to do. Our mission, it really is a case by case basis of each film. I've loved watching 35 millimeter scans as of late. A little extra grain scratches. No, I completely agree. I'm not really into kung fu movies, but the restoration involved in these makes me more interested in picking up the disc. The light touch approach, you've certainly, yeah, no, I appreciate, and that's the whole. That's like I said, that's the whole point of this is that we want to give that kind of experience. I even thought about putting Grindhouse edition on this, but I didn't want to make that look. I mean, I probably should in the special features or just say grindhouse look. I think we may have done that. I honestly forget what I wrote on the back of those. But yeah, when we do these types of films, and we'll be upfront about it. I know we were upfront about Old Master and Game of Killers, and we showed the trailers online. So there was no like, gotcha, this is what it looks like. We no surprises. But as I said, this is mainly for new people coming in and discovering the label, figuring out what we're doing, and where to spend your money. If you don't want to spend your money on a beat up print disc, I completely understand. I have no qualms about that. Hoping TerraVision and Graveface have some spooky plans for Halloween season. We're trying. We're really, really trying. We probably have about, I would say we have about maybe 15 discs completed and authored and done. We are just trying to figure out what the best approach is for TerraVision moving in the future. Um, we're very happy with how Return of the Living Dead 2 did. We thought vinyl was dead. It wasn't with that release, which was fucking great. Parasite from Mystic Vault has done well for them, so that's great. But we do have some stuff coming up soon. Um, we're just not going to tell you what it is. The long road to Happy Hell Night will be worth it. Proof that you guys care for the film. Yeah, now that, like, again, that is going to get a full fledged UHD, perfect release, as you could say. There's still the delay with that, and we're moving forward. It's just about done in the background of its. We've had a lot of problems with UHD on that, mainly because it's dark. And that was another question I saw on Discord, is that, what is all this talk about HDR? That movie is a pain in the fucking ass because it's 80% of it's just black. And when you deal with those types of, when you deal with black on UHD and doing HDR on it, not UHD, but HDR, HDR amplifies everything. So when you tend to do that, it magnify and could crush and push, and it looks too dark. And sometimes that's the issue with sometimes UHDs with HDR, is that you can't see the fucking movie. And we don't want that with that. So it's taken a little bit more time. Plus, we were looking for the alternate cut, which is called Blood Rush. We never found it, unfortunately. I don't even know if it exists, but I didn't want to put something out and that like show up or find out later or whatever. Um, and last, just want to say the highlight of visiting family in Savannah is going to the television storefront. Sad we missed it due to the years to the relocation. Love what you're doing. Yes, but we have multiple places in Savannah. We're at the mall, at the Savannah Mall. We have a place there. We have the Starland, which is the one you probably went to. And there's always some knickknacks and cool stuff at the museum down by the river, and things like that. And if you're in Chicago, you can come visit our storefront there, and our record shop there, and also the museum that's there. We also have a rental store, which I guess a lot of people don't know. We do have a full functioning rental video store. And it's in Chicago, and it's in the basement of the museum. And there's shit, I don't know, maybe 20,000 movies down there just to rent. It's mainly old stuff. It's like not really getting like new Blu-rays in, and it's mainly like old Criterion discs. So what we did, just to, since we're on the subject, is that there is this really rad video store in Chicago that had like 100,000 movies to rent, called Odd Obsession. And Odd Obsession was around for years. And during the pandemic, they had to close, and they had probably, like I said, like 100,000 movies, and they just boxed it all up and they put it into storage. Ryan is good friends with the guy, and so it kind of reopened in that sense. So it's the old Odd Obsession stock. A lot of art house foreign films, really, really rare films that you can't find. And yeah, you can go rent movies, and a lot of people do, and it's pretty cool. Sadly, I'm not there, so I don't get to. I help like set it up and like build it out and find the pairing the discs with the covers, which was a nightmare, because it was like so much movies, and we actually curated it all. We picked up. We picked out what we wanted to put on the shelf, so that was like it. We got rid of a lot of the just more like super popular stuff that you can easily just watch on any streaming service. We mainly wanted to get like, the uh, you know, really lowbrow weird stuff on the shelf. Waiting Iced, yeah, me too. Any television or any TV series coming? Monsters would be a dream release. Curious Elements seems. Uh, that Monsters is really rough. It is a possibility, but um, you think that doing a movie is expensive, look at a TV show. Um, I mean, the reason why a lot of those shows are not on HD format is that it would cost, man, like no joke. I am not bullshitting. 750 to $1 million, easy, easy, easy. Um, that would be insane. Not that it's not possible, but it would be stupid expensive. Uh, but who knows? Things could happen. Anyways, all right, cool. I appreciate Keep giving love. Yeah, we got plenty of that coming. Well, I appreciate it. I didn't want this to be too long because I tend to ramble, of course. But thanks for joining in. Thank you for supporting TerraVision. Please share this video if you see anybody talking about us, about this incident, I guess you could call it. Again, I didn't want the guy to be roasted. That wasn't my intention, just to clarify. I honestly didn't think it would blow up, and it did. I think that one tweet has like over 300,000 views, which is which is pretty funny. But I guess you can't really pay for press like that. Poor guy. I again, don't give him a hard time. I know people were bashing him and stuff. Just let him go. I'm not we're not mad about it. But we are thankful for this opportunity. So anyways, all right guys, thank you. And we should be back with a movie maybe soon. See ya. Bye.